Parsons here from lifemoreextraordinary.com, and today on this Facebook Live we're going to be talking about what you do if you, as a parent, you feel like you're out of touch with education. So I'm going to share with you what you need to know and how I can help you if you're feeling this way. So where this has come from is that a lot of parents, right from the very beginning of my business. Hello, if you're watching live, please say hello in the comments, say where you're watching from, and if you think it'd be useful to your friends, please share it with your friends as well. So a lot of parents have said to me right from the very, very beginning. I remember interviewing a mum right in the beginning of my business just to find out what worries and concerns she had and what I might be able to help people with. And she was an older mum. She'd had her daughter quite late in life, and she said one of her biggest concerns when supporting her daughter with education was that she didn't know what the modern education system was like and how to help. She basically felt out of touch. And this is something that I've heard over and over again in the last 3 years. And it makes mums and dads feel really, really insecure about how they can actually help and support their children. And it also kind of undermines their ability to kind of stick to boundaries and set routines and all that kind of thing in place, which is really not helpful. And this week I've done a couple of other Facebook Lives about what to do if your child isn't following your advice, and what to do if you find yourself constantly nagging your child. And the solution to those things is often about routines and boundaries. But if you're feeling really, really uncertain about all those kinds of things, then it's really, really much harder to enforce these things because you don't know actually if you're in the right. So that's the background to what I'm going to be talking about today, and I hope it's going to be useful for you. If you've got any specific concerns about this kind of thing, please pop them in the comments while I'm live so that I can answer those comments and questions directly while we're all here together today. So the first thing I want to really reassure you is that fundamentally very little has changed since you were at school. You know, the UK and most of the rest of the world has been following what, you know, you might call an industrialized education system since, you know, the 1870s, when it became legally required for all children to go to school. And basically what that means is that people turn up to school, they sit in classrooms, you have large classes. You know, most schools these days will be seeing 30 kids. Back in the Victorian times, you might have had 60 or 80 kids. But, you know, you've got a large number of children per teacher, and the teacher teaches them academic subjects, and the way that it's tested is through tests and exams. So that really hasn't changed. But I think what parents see changing is some of the teaching methods, and you see in the headlines all the time about changes to the GCSEs and changes to A-levels and all that kind of thing, particularly from when Michael Gove was the Education Secretary. So let's talk about some of those things. So firstly, teaching methods. So I think even since I left school, teachers have become much more aware of learning differences such as dyslexia and dyspraxia, ADHD, autism, all that kind of thing. And while teacher training is still pretty poor in all of these areas, like when I did my PGCE back in, what year was it? It was like 2005, 2006. I didn't receive a single piece of training about how to deal with learning differences. But there was awareness about those issues in schools and the acknowledgement that you needed to differentiate your teaching. So basically alter your teaching methods according to the needs of the children in your classes. So that has changed probably quite a lot since when you were at school. I can remember the parents of people who I went to primary school with in the 1980s being really frustrated with my teachers because they didn't make any allowances for things like dyslexia. And that was definitely changing in the 1990s and has significantly changed now, in that there will be a lot more support and a lot more awareness of those kind of issues. So the other way that teaching methods have changed is that it's become less didactic than it used to be. And what I mean by didactic is that there's much less of the teacher standing at the front of the class and just spouting out knowledge or writing it on the board and expecting pupils to write it down and know it. So that's the kind of lecture model that is still very much used in universities today. So what's different about that now is that there's a much wider acknowledgement of different learning styles. Now, the research around learning styles, where we talk about things like kinesthetic, visual, and auditory learners, that's actually been proven to be false. You know, you can't really pigeonhole people into those separate categories in the way that well, it's just a false way of thinking about people. But there are people who have strengths in different areas of learning and respond better to different types of learning experiences. And I like to call this learning methods rather than learning styles. So you will find that some children are much more practical and hands-on than others, and some children do just love to listen and to discuss and to write, and others respond really, really well if something is explained in a diagram. So my own son, he's incredibly practical. He's always building things with Lego, and that's just what he loves to do. Whereas my daughter, she never does anything practical at all. All she wants to do is read and write. So they have very different learning methods. And I think and teachers in schools now have a much greater understanding of this and really try to move away from the didactic teaching methods that don't suit a lot of children and use different, more practical styles of learning. And as someone who was educated in earlier times, shall we put it, it's sometimes you feel a little bit mystified about those different approaches to teaching, because it doesn't seem like they're getting through the same quantity of information in the same amount of time. But it's actually, if it's more effective at improving their understanding, then it is a better way of teaching. So if this is helping, please give me a thumbs up or a heart or something in the comments, or if you've got any questions, please pop them in the comments as you're watching. So we've talked about how learning, how teaching methods have changed. So let's talk about how exams have changed, and that's a big thing that has changed. So a lot of the parents that I work with now were probably educated in the 1970s or early 1980s, and you might have done O-levels, or you might have been there just at the beginning of GCSEs, and probably there's been quite a big shift away from how you were taught and then back towards how you were taught since you were at school. So when I was at school in the 1990s, there was an awful lot of coursework and they were just bringing in modular exams. And this made it really, really, well, it made it a lot easier to get higher marks, because coursework, you could bank marks before you got to the final exam. And then some subjects, like I did modular A-level biology and modular A-level geography, meant you could take bits of your A-level as you went along, so that when I got to my final, for example, biology A-level exam, I already knew from counting up the marks that I'd already banked in previous exams that I got an E, and all I had to do in that exam was do my very best to get the A that I wanted to get. Now that came in, and it probably wasn't there when you were at school, but now it's largely been taken away again. So they've scrapped AS levels, which was like the last remnants of the modular system, so that people have to take exams right at the end of A levels, the 2 years of A levels, rather than having exams in the middle, which actually count towards the final mark. and lots of coursework has been taken away as well. Now, this is a real shame for some students, particularly girls, really thrived in the coursework and modular system because they were much better at keeping up with a consistent rate of work and just doing really, really well all the time. But some students, like boys, like these exams that came out this summer just gone in August, boys made their first kind of real resurgence in the marks that they had in a very long time. So it's proving better for boys, this new regime, than it was for girls. So yeah, it's swings and roundabouts really. So less coursework than there was like 20 years ago, and less modular exams, but actually that probably makes it more similar to what it was like when you were at school as a parent. So what has changed with Gove's reforms? So I think really his intention, I'm not a huge fan of what Michael Gove has done in schools, because he's really made it very, very difficult for schools and teachers to deliver the curriculum in a big way. But I think what I would say was good, and this is a kind of measured compliment, is that he's ambitious. Or the reforms that he brought in are ambitious for students. Now, this is good for some students and not so good for others, in that he wants people to cover more content and to do harder content sooner. So some of the content that was previously taught at A-level is now in the GCSE courses. Now, I think like it's amazing to be ambitious for people, because people only improve and get better when they are ambitious and try harder and push themselves outside their comfort zones. That's how I've got to where I am today. But it can be really uncomfortable. Thanks, Caroline, for the thumbs up. Thank you very much. So it can be really uncomfortable for some students, particularly the students that find academic study harder. So yeah, that's really what you can see from Gove's reform. So less coursework, less modular exams, more content, and harder content sooner. And it's really up to you what you think about that. So if you've got any questions about any of that, please let me know in the comments. But I hope what this video is doing is reassuring you that really ultimately not very much has changed. I mean, people say, oh, there's a new specification out, and actually there is no real new way of asking an exam question. You know, most exam questions still start describe or explain or discuss, or they're still using those same old command words that have always been used. And it's really down to the same old stuff of actually doing the work, doing the revision, doing the past paper questions, and actually keeping trogging on with all of it. But you know, I do understand that if you've been outside the system for decades, then it is all a bit scary for you as a parent, knowing whether you're guiding your child through it in exactly the right way. And that's why I'm here, really. I'm here to teach students how to study, and I'm here to help students with the confidence and knowing how to support their child through all of this stuff. And that's really why I've set up the Extraordinaries Club, because I've seen that when you work together with parents and students at the same time, you get much better outcomes. So for the last 2 years, I've been working almost exclusively one-to-one with students, and you just kind of have passing conversations with parents or quick exchanges over email, and that doesn't get parents quite as involved in the process as I think they really need to be to see really positive results. So last year I did a course, well, I did a course twice called the Exam Success Formula, which was for parents and students, and took everybody through the materials to do with study skills and helping students to get the skills that they need to do as well as possible in their exams. But it also involved the parents and got parents to think deeply about, you know, what are their aspirations for their child? Where have those aspirations come from? How does that colour the way that you interact with your child and encourage your child and the things that you say to your child? And then things like, you know, if you think you're nagging, you know, what's going on there? Like, why are you nagging? And is the way that you're saying what you want to say actually being said in a really constructive way that's going to help your child to move forward? So it's basically got everything in there to enable your family to operate as a team, to move forward and have as stress-free a year as possible, and also to to get the very best results possible, because that's what we want for our children. We want our children to have the doors open for them in life rather than to have them closed. And for that reason, I've started the Extraordinaries Club, because I want to have long-term relationships with people to support them through all of this stuff, because it's not easy. And I want to see you through the whole of the academic year, if not beyond, with this support. And I want to help both parents and I want to help students, so that I can, see your children make their dreams come true, basically. So if you would like help with any of this study skills stuff, or communication with your child, or how to support your child, or how to deal with the school, or any of that kind of stuff, then I'm here for you, and I really, really want to help you. And I really encourage you to check out the Extraordinaries Club, which you'll find at theextraordinariesclub.com. This is launch week, and if you join before 9 p.m. tomorrow night, that's the 21st of September 2018, you can get a lower price than you ever will be able to in the future. And that's just to acknowledge the founding members, and that as the club grows and it goes on for longer, there'll be more and more stuff in there to support you and to help you. So the lower price acknowledges the fact that you're joining right at the very beginning. So if you join this week before 9 p.m. tomorrow, you can join up for a year for £299, and that will go up to £350 after 9 o'clock tomorrow. And if you join on a monthly membership, it's £32.50 if you join before 9 p.m. tomorrow, and that then goes up to £35 a month after 9 p.m. tomorrow. So I really encourage you, if you're interested, to check it out this week before 9 p.m. tomorrow and make your decision. The doors aren't going to close, it's just that the price is going to go up. So if you're not ready to make a decision, or it's not quite the right time for you just yet, then it's going to be there for you whenever you need it. But I was taught by my mum to be a bargain hunter, and I wouldn't want you to miss out on the price, on the lower price, if now is the right time for you. So thank you so much for watching today. I really hope that you found this video really useful. And if you've got any questions about the Extraordinaries Club, please let me know, either in the comments here or at lucy@lifemoreextraordinary.com. And you just need to check out the Extraordinaries Club at www.theextraordinariesclub.com. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.